Hey everyone, Charles here with Rocky Mountain ATV-MC. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set your spring preload on open chamber forks when you're installing the Racetech springs. Now that's going to be either just washers, could be a spacer and washers. In either case, we're going to show you how to take the measurements and determine what you need for your bike. Now with that being said, we're going to show you how to do this on a Yamaha T7, but the process is going to apply to dirt bikes and adventure bikes as well. And you always want to refer to your model specific service manual and any specific instructions that came with your kit as you go through the process. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you haven't picked up springs yet, you can find these on our website. Just type in your year, make, and model, and then use the drop-down menu to select the correct spring for your weight. And that's going to be without gear on. And once you get these springs, you'll notice you have a few items that come in the box. Almost all of these are going to come with several washers. Now, that's going to be to help set your preload. So if you have a dirt bike, that might be all you need. And if that's the case, they're just going to go at the bottom of the spring. But if you have an adventure bike, a lot of times these springs are going to come with a tube. You'll cut this to length, but you need to use the washers as a buffer between your spring and the spacer, and then again, the fork cap and that spacer. You got to have a buffer there. So those are your options. Now, if you ever have a case where you need more preload and your kit didn't come with a tube like this, you can use Schedule 40 PVC to make that spacer. Now, the last thing I want to mention is if you want to know specs for your fork, you can head over to Racetech's website and use the product search feature. That's going to give you the amount of preload they recommend as well as the oil height. We've already removed the forks from our bike. You want to clean them off, remove the spring, and drain that oil. If you need help getting to this point, take advantage of our other how-to videos and your service manual. If you're not familiar with preload, it refers to the amount the spring is compressed with the fork fully extended. This is going to affect the ride height of the bike, and we're just going to follow Racetech's recommendations for that. I've laid out the stock spring next to the two Racetech springs. You can see it's quite a bit longer. So our next step is to set the preload for these Racetech springs. And I want to point out these springs are intentionally shorter. So with that being said, what we need to do is take one of these springs, we're going to set it inside of our fork. So now we're going to take a free length measurement. We're measuring from the very top of the spring down to that inner tube on that edge. You can see we're 150 millimeters. Now I'm going to use my Motion Pro tool to pull that damping rod up. And now I'm going to install one of the washers that came in our kit. I also have that collar that came stock. And then I'm going to thread the cap all the way on until it bottoms out. So right there, it bottoms all the way out. Now we need to take a measurement from the bottom of this cap to the top of that collar. So I'm 46 millimeters. I'm going to add 10 to that because we want this spring to be preloaded 10 millimeters. So that's how long I'm going to cut that tube, is 56 millimeters. And just so you guys know, you always want to have a washer in between the spring and your spacer for a buffer. That's why we put the washer on for the measurement. Also, the reason we added 10 millimeters to our measurement is because that's what Racetech recommends for our preload setting. A lot of bikes, especially dirt bikes, are only going to need 4 millimeters of preload, so you might only need washers in that case. But either way, this is how you take that measurement, and you're always going to want to follow the preload recommendations for your specific springs. I'm going to take my pipe and lightly clamp it in my vise. And I'll measure out 56 millimeters and use a pipe cutter to cut that off. And then from here, I'm just going to deburr this spacer. So you can use either files or sandpaper to do that. And then we're going to make the same size spacer for the other fork tube. All right, now that we have everything cut up, I'm gonna make sure we don't have any metal shavings on any of the parts. So I'm just gonna spray everything off with suspension cleaner. For right side up forks, the spacer is gonna go next to the cap, and you can do a dry fit to double check your measurement. On inverted or upside down forks, the spacer will go to the bottom, and you're just gonna verify the measurement of the spacer itself. Once you've done that, you can bleed and set your oil height, and Race Tech will usually give you a recommendation for that. Now for assembly, you wanna make sure that the jam nut is backed off all the way, which it is. So now I can take this spacer, set that down. Next we have our washer, the spring. And I've got this spring collar going at the top. I'm gonna reach down with my damping rod bleed tool. I'm gonna screw that onto the damping rod, pull it up. And while that's up, I'm gonna press down on the spring again. 16 millimeter combo wrench to hold everything again. Unscrew this damping rod, bleeder tool. And we can install the cap. And it's really important when you install this cap, you should feel a positive stop. So right there, that's a solid stop, and we have a little gap between the jam nut and the cap. That's exactly what you want. If you don't see that gap, you need to go back and make sure that the jam nut is backed off all the way. But for us, we're gonna take our 17 millimeter wrench and our 19 socket and tighten the cap. And anytime you're torquing, only use the specs that are in your model specific service manual. We'll go ahead and move both of these wrenches. Then from here, you can lower that inner fork tube. Just some fork oil to that O-ring before it's all the way on. I'm just gonna snug it down. And that's it for setting the preload on your open chamber forks for the Race Tech springs. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. And if you need any of these springs or anything else for your bike, you can find that stuff on our website. Just click the link in the description below. We offer free shipping on orders over $75. So take advantage of that and subscribe to our channel for more helpful content. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.